Financial abuse of older people is growing, including scams by con artists representing themselves as everything from government representatives to tech support, home energy auditors, distressed grandchildren, and even new romantic interests. These scammers' targets could include your parents, your grandparents, or even you, with the goal of grabbing hundreds of thousands and in some cases millions of dollars of your family's money. Don't let your loved ones be victims. Stay tuned as Adrian and Erik discuss 6 scams targeting seniors right now on the Retirement Lifestyle Show. Welcome to the Retirement Lifestyle Show. I'm one of your co-hosts, Erik Olson, and with me today is one of our co-hosts, Adrian Nicholson. Roshan Loungani, our third co-host, could not be with us again today. So, Adrian, it looks like you and I are carrying the ball again this week. What do you think?
Yeah, Erik, I'm looking forward to it. I'm happy to be here. I think the topic today is going to be a really good one. We got some stories and examples and a lot of data to go with. If I don't want to spoil it for our listeners, I'll have you do the honors. So how about you take us right into it, Erik?
Oh, okay, sure. I can spoil it for our listeners. Is that what you're saying? But anyway, here we go. So, listeners, today we thought we'd address one subset of this larger question of financial abuse of seniors. And there's many levels at which we could have this conversation, and we will be saying more in future episodes. But we thought today what we would take some time to do is to expose you to some of the scams that are being used today to target seniors and to have them part with their money. So we have 6 such scams that we're going to get through with you today, and then we're going to mention some possible solutions as we get to the end of this. But awareness is the first, I think, solution. Your awareness for yourself, as well as for if your parents are still living and they are evidencing any sort of susceptibility, perhaps, or increasing susceptibility to some of these scams, at least you're knowing about it and being able to respond to it can help perhaps you and your loved ones be forewarned and therefore less vulnerable. So we're going to go through 6 of these scams, and it's just going to be back and forth with Adrian and me. This is probably going to be a shorter episode than most, but nevertheless, we thought these were important. So, Adrian, why don't you take it away with the first such scam?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Erik. And this is just an overall risk to people's retirement that you might not be thinking about or don't really consider, especially when you're looking at your overall plan. You're somebody that might have worked a really hard time to accumulate all the assets you have, and one of the risks you might be most focused on is market risk or looking at your expenses or whatever it may be. But the last risk people really expect is to be scammed out of their assets. So it's really important that we just have this conversation and this discussion with you all today, just knowing and looking at all the areas that really can impact your financial well-being. They can come in all shapes and all sizes and from all areas of your lifestyle. So it's really important topic and conversation that we're going to have today. And we're hoping that if this content really registers with you and might be able to help you out in the future if you're somebody that's targeted by some of these cyber criminals, hackers, or whatever they may be. So it's an important element for you to really consider when you look at your overall plan, just so you're protected and you can have that conversation with somebody as well to help them out. So the first scam that I'm going to jump into today is the tech support scam. And this one's a very new scam because technology is progressing every day, where decades back you wouldn't really have to worry about it as much as you do now, where everybody has a computer right now in their pockets, their phones. So you can get scammed in a variety of different ways when it comes to technology. Like I said, a phone could be an example. Your computer is another example. Within your computer, you have your email. So tech support scams can come in all shapes and sizes. A common one that you see in a story is that somebody was on their computer one day and they got an alert, a flashing yellow alert saying you need to click here. A virus is on your computer right now. You need to take action by calling this number. So what this person did is they called the number, and immediately somebody picked up the phone and said, okay, yes, I understand that you're being hacked right now, or you're afraid that you have a virus. can I gain remote access to your computer right now? So this is, again, they're just trying to build some trust, and they're trying to seem more of like a professional that's here to help you, when in reality they're trying to take advantage and take a hold of your personal technology. So once they get access to your information or your computer, this is when they're able to attack your information, your personal finances, because now more than ever, people are having all this information stored on their personal devices, their technology. So this is a real life example that people need to be aware of right now, because if you're somebody that relies on your technology to access your personal finances, you have a lot of valuable information that they're going to target, because that's what they're after at the end of the day. They're after your assets. They're after your personal information, which can give them access to your assets. So I thought this was a really good scam to start off with, just being
Yeah.
aware how powerful, again, that phone, your computer has, when it comes to all your information and all your assets as well. And again, they're trying to build trust. They're trying to present themselves as a professional that's here to help you, and you're not having that face-to-face reaction. Again, for this story, it's a phone call. So this is something that you need to be aware of, and whenever in doubt, just go to a third party, have a conversation with somebody to help figure out if this is legit or not.
So, Adrian, that's a great summary of what's going on there. I've seen some another twist on this that I think is also interesting. You said, okay, this thing pops up. Of course, it might have been through phishing, or you somehow you were at a website you shouldn't have been at. It downloaded something onto your computer, and it gave you that pop up. But once they have you engaged, the one of the main methods that they'll use is to say, all right, well then, I'm gonna help you fix this particular part, or this particular problem, and then bill you for it. And they'll ask you to, they'll ask you to bill it, and then they'll say, oh my gosh, what happened is I overbilled you. Let me give you a refund. Then they say, oh my gosh, I over refunded you. Now this is the critical part. I accidentally hit an extra couple of zeros. And so at this point, I need you to help me out. I need you to get that money back to me that I over refunded to you, because if I don't, I'm going to lose my job. And oftentimes these are people who have a discernible uh, accent that indicating that they're based in some, in a offshore facility that's providing this tech support, and with the implication being that they're in pretty tight financial position to begin with. They're not well paid necessarily, at least as much as they might have been if they were in the U.S. And if they lose this job, it's going to be really bad for them. So, as a favor to the senior, they say, would you refund this to me? Here's how I'd need you to do this. Go to your bank, get some bank cards, or get some money, gift cards and that sort of thing, and then have those gift cards sent to the following address. And so it's through the use of these gift cards, which of course then once they're purchased, they're not really traceable. Anybody can use them. At that point, then this is how they've been able to clean people out of, in some
Hmm.
cases, thousands and tens of thousands of dollars based on this fabricated appearance of this result. And they also have accomplished this by creating the appearance of on your computer, having actually typed into some sort of what looks like a web form the refund that's owed to you, and then hitting enter, and so now it's sealed and it appears that it's been sent off to you. And and so this is, your attempt to, out of your compassion for this person and the potential of their losing their job, that you'll then go ahead and send this refund to them.
Yeah.
It's amazing how refined this has been. Now, in addition, they've created these systems where they'll have these, we'll just call them mules, people whose job it is, they're not really that closely aware of precisely what's taking place in terms of these call centers where these scams are going out, but instead they're meant to pick up the package that has the gift cards or what have you, then transmit that up the chain so that it's all gathered and then processed and passed along. And
Hmm.
fascinating
It is.
in how well developed these systems are.
That's what I was about to say, Eric. You just said perfectly how developed these systems are. And you just got to imagine just the way technology is progressing. They're going to be able to add on and find even more creative ways to tailor their scams towards you. So it's very
Hmm.
important that you talk to somebody else, a third party. You ask questions. Don't have a sense of urgency when you're being contacted by somebody you don't know. Ask questions and take your time, because their sense of urgency in a short time frame is their biggest tool against you, just to pressurize you and make you do all these actions and steps as quickly as possible so they can target your money, your assets, your investments,
Hmm.
whatever it may be, or whatever they can get access to. That's
Right.
important. So this was a really interesting scam that I just wanted to bring up, and I'm happy to go on to the next one for with you, Eric. What do you have for our listeners to
Sure.
start off with?
Yeah. So the next one I have is the grandparent scam. Actually, this is somebody that I work with. Her mother was actually targeted by one of these scams.
Oh, that's
Here's how it
rough.
goes. Yeah, it is. So your loved one gets a phone call. The phone call purports to be from a grandchild. The grandchild is stuck in, let's say, is reports that he or she was traveling out of the country, had some car accident or other some sort of something that went wrong, was put in jail, or was somehow stranded or something of that kind, and now needs money fast. Could you please, rush to the bank and wire some funds, or transmit some funds,
Hmm.
and it's got to happen now because it's a
The
crisis.
sense of
And so what is
urgency. That's what they're trying to
sense of
create.
urgency? Yes, absolutely. And so, of course, um, it how is a grandparent necessarily going to discern that this person is not a grandchild? Well, hopefully they're close enough with their grandchild that they recognize the vocal patterns and speech patterns and things of that kind. But nevertheless, these are sophisticated enough and frequent enough that the Department of Justice, or I think actually the Senate Special Committee on Aging, ranks this as the fifth most common scam
Wow.
that
Yeah.
is currently being used against seniors. So anyway, be on the lookout for the grandparent scam. Number three, Adrian, what you got?
So the third one is the IRS scam, which I think we touched on before in the past, but this is just a very common one, especially during around tax season. What is happening in the stories you're hearing out there is somebody's getting contact by a supposed IRS agent or employee, whatever have you, and these agents, so to speak, have badge numbers, so they seem to have all the credentials to make them seem like they are an IRS agent, when really they're just a cyber criminal, a hacker, just again, similar to the technology scam, trying to just get all the information they can out of you, because your personal information gives them access to a lot of your personal assets, your wealth, whatever, all your any type of information or content, whatever you have online. They're just trying to get as much information out of you. And again, they're using this IRS persona to get access to this. And they also will try and target this around tax season. Again, just try and tailor their kind of lie or their system to you in a way where it seems believable. If you're doing your taxes and you're getting a call from the IRS, it kind of seems like it makes sense, because again, it's this time of the year. So this is something that people need to be aware of.
And in addition, they have, since they're purporting to be from the government, this was, again, according to that same Senate Special Committee on Aging, the government impersonation or government agent impersonation is the number one category of scam for seniors in the period from 2015 to 2020.
Hmm.
So what you're talking about, Adrian, is apparently one of the most effective measures that these scammers are using against seniors, because here again, there's cultivating, or at least playing on, I should say, the general respect for government that you oftentimes have among older people, and then as well threatening them with action, both penalties and more, if they fail to act in a timely way on these things.
And there's plenty of resources you can go out there if you do get one of these calls. And who knows, it might be the off chance where this is actually an IRS agent trying to contact you. But go to their website, contact, or go to your local office or whatever it may be just to get the information. Sometimes, yes, they do have certain timeframes that you have to put it on. But again, the sense of urgency is extremely important. As long as you do your due diligence and you make a good effort to really go through this, that's all you really need to do to figure out whether this is a scam or not, and just have that
Hmm.
conversation with somebody else. Again, the theme that we're just going to be really driving home with you today is again the time frame. The shorter the time frame, the more such of urgency, the more likely it's going to be a scam. Where your job is really to seek out a third party, ask questions, go to a trusted source, whether it's their website or a local office where you can meet with somebody face to face. Because a lot of these scams are happening through the use of technology where you're not face to face with them, which gives them
Hmm.
an advantage, especially if you're somebody that's not very tech savvy or technology hasn't been a part of your life for a long time. That's something that they're going to try and use against you.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with number 4 then of our list of 6 here because it follows directly on the heels of what you were just saying, Adrian, about the IRS scam. So here's another government agent imposter scam. This time they pretend to be from the Social Security Administration. So here's how they work. That they'll get a hold of somebody, oftentimes using robocalls. It'll say something along the lines of, press 1 to speak with a government support representative, et cetera, et cetera. And what the essential claim is that their social security number has been suspended because of suspicious activity or because it's been involved in a crime. And so they ask to confirm the victim's social security number and say that they may need to then withdraw money from the victim's bank and store it on gift cards or other ways for safekeeping, because if the social security number is not operating for a while, then this senior is going to need to have these reserves. And then, okay, so you're thinking, okay, well, that's interesting, Eric. They're going to buy these gift cards, but how does the imposter get a hold of that? Well, then they'll say things like, take photos of those gift cards and send it to those so that we can see that in fact this has been accomplished. And at that point, now you have the number visible on the gift card that then can be used online and transferred into cash. Or again, they'll figure out a way then to say that they have to give up these gift cards um, directly to one of these other providers. So yeah, the government imposter syndrome apparently is a super successful one. How about number 5, Adrian?
Number 5 on my list, and this is again more of a newer scam, is romance scam. And this also kind of ties into relational scams online. And this is starting to pick up a lot more steam because a couple of years ago, a lot of people were home or they couldn't leave the house. So they go to certain sources like social media, dating websites, just to be able to connect and just meet other people. So this is kind of very common trend that has been taking place recently. But you're hearing a lot of stories out there where people are developing these relationships or spending time or talking to these people online more than ever. And over time, they developed it. I think out of all the scams, this one has mainly the longest time horizon, the longest time frames, because they're job as a scammer or the person that has a fake profile here is develop a relationship with another person in order to obtain their money or their assets or investments or just trying to get some financial gain out of it. And they're only able to do this again by establishing a relationship. So this is just
Yeah, in fact,
extremely important to just be aware of. So
just to reinforce what you're saying, Adrian, is just the numbers that we are seeing about this. In 2021, according to one source, it was more than $500 million in the United States that was taken through romance scams.
wow,
And
yeah,
that was an 80% increase over 2020. So
exactly.
on that basis, when you say, hey, this is a rapidly accelerating method, And I suppose it's no big shocker that in the wake of COVID and all of the loneliness and everything and the lockdowns and such, that people would be feeling like, wow, I need a human connection. and and that this would be particularly effective in many people. But so with that, we'll take it one step further on that. You and I both recognize that, um, as you've pointed out, a lot of people are using these social apps and they're connecting to people, but the segment of the population that was the single most affected by this were people over the age of 70, with the average victim in this case losing $9,000 to this romance scam. So,
Exactly.
do you? So, talk about. You want to give an example of one of these? Do you have an example?
The common one that people probably are just most familiar with is when people are using a fake profile. For example, if you're on a social media website and you just get this new friend request or a connection, or somebody asks just to say hello and you never met them before. So, a common thing
Hmm.
you'll do is click on their profile, just get to know them, and you'll see photos, information that they post where they make this profile look as real as possible. So that right there is just a way for people just to verify, saying, "Okay, I see this. They they have pictures. Maybe they have a picture of their dog in there, and you have like a dog as well, and you immediately kind of begin to trust them like right away." Or you see them post certain like entertainment or a sports team that you like as well, and they're just trying to verify and create that trust aspect of them and have this profile where it makes them look like a real life person. But again, the person that is operating or using that profile is complete opposite of who they're presenting. And again, their job is just to create that relationship, a conversation. Again, this could go out for multiple years, and you're developing this like friendship, this relationship, whatever it may be, over time. And then comes that day where they ask for personal information, or again, like Eric, that scam that you brought up, where a child needed help, or somebody like broke down and they're far away and they need money. Well, if you
Hmm.
have been having a conversation with this person for over years, and you might have shared some like intimate stories or conversations with them over time, you'll have a personal connection with them. So, of course, you're going to want to help them out as much as you can. But in reality, you've never really met this person in real life. You never really saw the person who's operating this profile or this account, whatever it may be. So, this is the more long drawn out one, where we're saying some of the theme and the concept of most of these scams is creating a sense of urgency. Where this kind of scam doesn't really start out as a sense of urgency. It's this relationship that's been drawn out over time, but then comes that day where they trigger you with that sense of urgency. I need help, and you have that trust built into them over time, where they could take advantage of that.
So it's the puppy love phenomenon, right? So people feel like, oh man, I really have, I found this admirer, and this is really something special. And this, I can see how, for someone who's a widow or widower, this would be another shot at relationship
Mhm.
after, the sorrow associated with losing a dearly loved one. So it used to be, well, and it still is, that they would say, as you said, hey, I need some help financially, or I need some help with some medical bills, or hey, I'd like to come visit you, but I need some travel money. But now the one that's really started to pick up steam lately is, hey, I'm stuck. I'm abroad. I need you to invest some money into cryptocurrency, and send me some, get some cryptocurrency purchased, and then so that I can use that, because where I am at, cryptocurrency is going to be a medium of exchange that will help me get out of my predicament here. So, wow, who would have thought that crypto would have so many functions?
Yeah, it definitely does. And like you said, it's not just cryptos, it's gift cards, it's any type of financial instrument that they can use where it's not traceable, or it just can come back in a bad way to hurt you, is the
Hmm.
tactics they use. And just going back to the romance and the relationship scams, I mean, you do hear stories where people are in a committed relationships nowadays, or they find their loved ones online, and maybe it's like a friend or a family member who says, "Well, this worked for me. Why don't you try it out?" But again, at
Hmm.
the end of the day, this is where it's really important. Where if you are creating a connection or a relationship, whether it's personal or professional, you're supposed to ask questions. You're supposed to reference a third party. If they have any resources or websites or whatever, just get as much information as possible, especially if you're close to hitting a submit button on it, sending them a check. Ask as many questions as possible. Really verify who that person is, especially if you haven't met them face to face. But not to say that face to face scams don't happen, they do. But now more than ever, cyber criminals, hackers, scammers are using technology in a way to impact other people because a lot of our
Yeah.
information right now is online.
Yeah. So I'm going to just mention one other thing on this romance topic, and then move to number 6. But that is that one of the telltale signs here, particularly if you, let's say, if you're a listener who has an older parent or loved one who you think might be susceptible to this in some ways, just note that they may not be talking about it, because a lot of times one of the ruses, or part of this ruse, is to that this purported romantic interest is asking them to keep the relationship a secret. So if they're persuasive in that, it may be that your loved one isn't talking about this new relationship. Maybe it feels like it's not your business that they have this relationship, and it could be developing without your knowledge or awareness at all. And we already said that the average instance of this for those over age 70 was about a $9,000 loss. But just understand that's an average, and there are people who have lost, literally. There's an FBI interview available online of somebody who lost $2 million in one of these romance scams. So there's a potential to get completely cleaned out by these, if you're particularly vulnerable to them.
And that's why it's so
So,
important we're just having that conversation again today, Eric, just for our listeners and our viewers. Just we picked 6 scams to go over today, but there's hundreds, there's thousands of
mhm,
them, and there's going to be even new ones created as technology progresses, as new websites, or just whatever it is, how people connect or communicate. That's just going to develop over time. So just having these conversations and listening to these stories are extremely important, because maybe you're at a stage of your life right now where this isn't an issue, but over time it could be, or you might have somebody in your life that right now you may not know is getting affected by this. So just being aware and just being able to have that conversation with people is extremely important, because you are hearing instances where people lose this money and they're not able to get it back, which is very difficult and very tough in these situations.
all right, number 6. So this one, till now, we've been talking about mostly ones that are by phone or that are online. And now I would just want to pivot here and talk about one category, at least, that's more in person. And so this is a sort of this is a 2-for-1, because it's a home improvement scam, that also and another variant on this is the home energy audit scam. So it could very well be that you get a phone call, but uh, someone asking to swing by, but ultimately somebody is going to swing by, or it could be somebody who's tapping on the front door and offering to provide some home improvement services. But oftentimes what happens, again, we've talked over and over about urgency. So one of the methods that's used on the urgency side is to say, hey, we're having a 1-day only sale, or we're in the neighborhood, or we're drumming up business and we saw this, but it's a 1-day offer and you've got to put cash deposit down right now to get this thing done at this price. So as you know, reputable contractors are not in the business of doing these sort of on the spot decisions. So that's a warning, and asking for cash deposits in advance without any sort of written estimate or contract or anything of this kind. You'll hand that cash off and probably never see them again.
So, Eric,
Another
I'm
is
just
that
assuming, is this, for example, somebody knocking on their door? I'm like, hey, Eric, how's it going? You have a nice home. I'm going to give you a really good deal on how to like renovate your kitchen or help out your roof or something like that. And I'll give you the best quote out there right now. I need cash now. Is this kind of what the scam would seem like in real life?
That's right. So here's an example of one of these. A con artist came and agreed to get a homeowner a 65-year-old woman, to fix a water leak
Okay. A water
that
leak
was
in this
found.
case. Okay.
Okay. All right. And so, and I'm not saying that the water leak wasn't legit, but over a period of time, over a period of 3 months, this con artist extracted $210,000 from this victim, and was arrested after, at a point in time when he was trying to pick up an extra $15,000
Wow.
for still another in a series of these extra things that needed fixing. So now the other version of this, which is the home energy audit scam, is essentially what they're looking to do is to get into your home. Once they're in your home, they again show identification, they appear legitimate, and they're looking to help you comply with, let's say, your utilities own requirements for energy improvements, or that if you put these energy improvements to work, then you'll get a rebate on your energy bill. And but here's the little twist on it, is that they, in order to provide you with the rebate, they want you to sign a contract to have the work done, and with that you provide a debit number, a debit card number, or a credit card number, as opposed to the work being done for free and then they get paid by the utility company. In this case, you pay for this and then you're promised this rebate, but basically once they get paid, you'll never see any of this new equipment, and the scammers will have your credit card information, and go have a heyday with it. So as I promised, there's a 2 for 1, but there's 6 different instances of this. So the tech support scam, the grandparent scam, the IRS scam, the Social Security scam, the romance scam, and then the home improvement scam. And as we said, we could go on indefinitely. So now some of you are probably thinking, well, okay, this is interesting. What do we do about it? Well, I don't. There's a few resources that we'll put in the show notes so that you'll be able to see about this. But we'll have a link in the show notes to a website offered by the U.S. Department of Justice that is focused on financial abuse of elders. We'll also provide you with a link to a PDF booklet that you can get from, again, the U.S. Senate's Select Committee on Aging, and we'll also provide you with a link to a couple other websites that you can use to explore. But one of the things that I thought would be useful to just explain to you is that the there are resources that we're offering clients to help with some of these sorts of things. Stay tuned for more details about this in coming episodes. But in a nutshell, we've discovered a technology company that will essentially, in the same way that your financial planning software, or let's say if you're using Quicken or Mint or one of these other things, allows you to link your asset and liability accounts and your checking and savings and credit card accounts to it so that it can monitor things. In those cases, many times the purpose of the monitoring is to let you keep an eye on your net worth, let you keep an eye on your transactions, allow you to categorize your transactions so you're able to see if you're staying with a budget or what have you. In this case, though, this technology is intended to watch for consistent patterns in the nature of someone's spending, and then when it sees some significant departure from that, create an alert that can be then sent to a loved one, or to, if you wish, you can designate the financial advisor, but that those people who are part of the, if you will, the support or care team for an older adult will then have an ability to see in at an instant if some money is going out in large volumes where it shouldn't be going, so that you can put a stop to it in a hurry. Again, I'm not going to get into the details on that right now, but stay tuned for that as a preview of coming attractions. So, Adrian, any things that you want to say to our audience before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I'll just hit home the main points that we talked about, just on how you can just protect yourself. Just being aware, like Eric said, be vigilant. Just have a conversation with somebody if you're being contacted again by an untrustworthy source and you just want to verify it, and just always just know what you own. Just always monitor your personal information, your asset. Just always be aware, because again, it's a target. Sometimes when it comes to planning, we're focused on market, investment risk, all these different aspects, but sometimes it can come from outside of this box, so to be, and can come in all shapes and different sizes, where you always just have to be aware and just always just, we don't want to frighten anybody here. Like we said, there are examples where some of these sources turn out to be true and reliable, but there's are those unfortunate cases where it's not. So just being aware and just understanding about the potential threats out there can really help you or help somebody in your life and protect them from these cyber criminals, hackers, whatever it may be that are after your information, your assets.
Hmm. I'm going to just mention then, as a also looking ahead to the next couple of weeks. So next week we're going to be talking about within under the overarching subject of how do you manage in if indeed markets for a period of time here are not going to be gloriously bullish or gloriously accelerating higher. What are some of the approaches that you could use to survive and possibly even thrive in environments like that? And we're going to be addressing one in particular, which is the use of options, either direct use of options or indirect use of options as a way to generate a little bit more portfolio level income and hence overall return, as well as potentially some protective strategies. So stay tuned for that next week. And then the week after that, we're inviting in a research analyst from Eventide Investments, who is focused on, in particular, the industry, the solar panel industry, but not just to think, hey, let's go invest in solar panels, but instead to uncover for us the research that he's done and what the findings that he and others have done through that research about the extent to which forced labor, and in particular the forced labor of the Uyghur population of the Xinjiang Autonomous Region in northwest um, part of the People's Republic of China, the extent to which the forced labor is part of the value chain of creating some of those solar panels, and how we as consumers can use being informed consumers to make better decisions about the extent to which we, abstain from supporting that process of forced labor. So that's Reginald Smith, and he'll be with us in 2 weeks. Finally, listeners, thank you so much for joining us and for staying with us to this point. If you have not already done so, we'd ask you to go to our website, retirementlifestyleshow.com, and subscribe. You also can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or what have you. And if you like, you can go straight to YouTube and look up the Retirement Lifestyle Show, and you'll find our YouTube channel there as well. We'd also ask you, again, in addition to subscribing, if you wouldn't mind, leave a review, especially welcome, as you understand from this. We're all new to this, none of us is new to this. The more committed you are to a 5-star rating of our show, the happier we will, of course, be. And so that's it for this time. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Retirement Lifestyle Show.